All right.
Hey guys, so this is Kalia. Today I'm speaking to Brian. And Brian's done something really dope. He's actually discharged his mortgage. I'm going to let him explain the steps to exactly how he did that, why that's beneficial, and that could actually be an option for generational wealth if you know how to reallocate those funds. So here's Brian, and I'm actually just going to run through a couple questions with you. And the first one is, how did you find out about this process?
Well, I was in credit repair. I started off in credit repair. That would get me into looking into laws and more details on the power that we truly have as consumers. From there, it kind of went down to commercial law, trust law, contract law, and it's a never ending rabbit hole, I would like to state. Then you got to take in financial accounting and all those types of things. And for the last 14 months, I just really just been going hard on these laws, going from resource to resource, consuming a lot of content, understanding structure and what's going on, and that by far has led me to the appropriate steps to take to start. You use the term discharge. I don't like to use that term discharge, and I just technically removed the fraud, which was a predatory pretender lender, and I put them on notice, and I removed them from my court, not state court, but the records, the title. Okay.
Gotcha.
So with that in being understood, you still have, like they like to sell the notes and things of that nature. But I started with the origination. So where the fraud originated, that's what I attacked. Okay. So fraud negates all contracts.
Yeah.
There's no statute of limitations on fraud, pinpoint blank, period. So even people that went through foreclosure and lost their home, they still got action. There's no
Yep.
statute of limitations on fraud. You got the paperwork, you can prove your fraud, you got a claim. Now you just got to enforce your claim and understand that it's not going to be an overnight.
Yeah.
It didn't take you overnight to get in this stuff. It involves a lot of learning. You have to do a lot of unlearning because if you came up through a public school system, you conditioned to think a certain way. So it's really hard for you to grasp what's really going on in the big picture. So the biggest challenge of it all is just, unlearning to relearn.
No, you're definitely right on that. I shared a video last year about I too study consumer laws, really from a lot of stuff I started learning from the Bureau bullies. So
Uh-huh.
I shared a video last year about how you actually don't have to put a down payment on a car. And
Mm-hmm.
even if you put down that down payment, there is a rigorous process, but you can get that money back. And
Mm-hmm.
people were like, that's not true. She's lying. And it's just like they can't even believe
Right.
um, that it's
They're
an
right.
option when in reality it is. It's just not
Mhm.
public knowledge. It's out there.
That's
All
right.
we have to do is read and look for it.
And they know we're
Um,
not going to do
right,
that.
right. So you said this process took you about a year and a half, or
Well, I've been studying about 14 months now. It's funny you mentioned the brother Umar. May Allah reward that brother because he was instrumental in me taking a switch in what I was doing. Uh, we don't even like to use the term credit repair because there's
I
nothing
know.
wrong with your credit. The only thing wrong is with your understanding. So, it started with him when he really just exposed, what it was going on. And that's what really made me take that deeper look into just the straight consumer laws. My favorite section is 1692, 15 USC 1692. That's the debt collection practices.
Mhm.
Those are the rules and regulations that these people got to abide by. That's your remedy right there. Just invoking that, reading it, understanding it, those disclosures that Congress gives before they start issuing out the laws. They tell you right there what's going on and why they're doing this. That's your remedy right there. Regurgitate what they just said when you start, responding to these people. That's the best proof, best tool, best template you're gonna ever have is the law. And that's where it all started for me, going from there. And it just, like I said, it just led from there. Then I start going down YouTube, looking at videos from, older, I ain't gonna say, hate to say it, but white men. These were a bunch of white folks that knows all this stuff, been doing this stuff, been speaking this stuff for years, and their audience is mainly, white people. So, when you go back to look at what happened in 1933 with the Banking Act, and it's really powerful what Kennedy did for us. I mean, what Roosevelt did for us with the 1933 Act. So all past, present, and future debts are forgiven. So there is no money. That's the biggest thing people don't understand. There is no money. We have currency, which is an imitation of, but it's not money. It's a piece of paper with paid to the order of. It's a check. It's a negotiable instrument, but it's all debt. The only money is gold and silver. We don't have access to that. So all we doing is passing around debt notes. Once you can grasp that, then you can understand why you don't owe anything.
But
Once you can grasp that, you don't owe anything.
I think for most people, it has to start with studying. It has to start with understanding who you are,
Right.
and how powerful you are. As soon as you can start to understand those things,
Mhm.
it's gonna start clicking. It's gonna start
Right.
clicking.
Right.
So, can you share one thing that's kind of common in mortgage fraud, which is
Oh
something
yeah.
that maybe they
Oh
could
yeah.
possibly
I
see?
can show you comments when everything we sign is the contract itself. Simple contract law. In order for a contract to be legally enforceable, there has to have two conditions. There has to be the offerer, which is the one offering something. Then you have to have the offeree, which is the one receiving something. Okay. The offerer is given a presentment. The offeree is making what they call consideration. Those two signatures need to be on that document. Now ask yourself, when you sign for that car note, did the bank sign?
Right.
When you sign for that mortgage, did the bank sign? You're the only person signing those documents, so it's not a complete enforceable document. Even on that document, that's the first part. Then on these documents, there's all types of clauses on there where you're being stripped of your rights. That's not legal. You know, in a mortgage, they have what they call a confessed judgment, and it's typically labeled as the transfer of rights and property. Well, Texas Finance Code, a lender cannot take a confessed judgment in relationship to a mortgage. So that's fraud right there. Boom, right? And we ain't even got into all the other stuff on there, but that's 2 points right there. I showed you that that's not an enforceable document. Now, the problem is people hear court and they get scared. Okay. They get scared when they hear court, but they don't understand when you are the plaintiff, you bring forth your evidence, it's up to the defendant to prove you wrong. If they don't have any evidence to prove you wrong, which is one, solid contract, two, the fraud is in the contract that you're presenting in your question about, how can you lose? You know,
It's, I
it's
mean,
hard.
I'm gonna go back again. Like it comes back to being able to do the homework, doing the
Right.
research,
Exactly.
and just regurgitating, no, not even regurgitating, just taking the time to understand it. Because the more you understand it, the more you feel comfortable and confident in the information, and you can stand in court on your own too and say, hey, I am a consumer. These are the things, and it's fraud. So what do you think is was the hardest part of this process?
Unlearn and to relearn. That's the hardest part. Unlearn and relearn. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, people busy. People don't have time to be sitting up reading, trying to unlearn. They got kids, they got bills, you know, but these are all the things that have been put into place to keep us where we are. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So you got to understand, how bad do you want freedom at the end of the day? You know, because it's a sacrifice. But if you do a little bit every day at a time, 12 months go by, next thing you know, you understand. So like you mentioned earlier, just basic understanding of words such as credit. We don't know what credit is. We think credit is money. We think credit has to do with money. That's not what the law states. Credit is the right granted by a grantor to incur debt or to incur debt and to defer its payments. Defer its payment. Credit is a right. The first thing it tells you, credit is a right. And you go up into the bank or a car loan, and they sit there and tell you they finna loan you credit. How they loan you credit?
You know, that's crazy. Like people don't look at those contracts because you know when you're so when you're purchasing a car and that information at the top of the contract is saying, me, the consumer, I'm giving you credit for you to give back to me. And people are like, that don't make sense. The
That don't
bank
make
is
sense.
loaning me money. No, you're allowing the bank. You are the original creditor. But you
Mhm.
know, again, it comes to the homework.
That's where banking, right? Because we don't understand banks. We think banks got the money. No, banks can't loan and lend their money. That's been already issued by the Supreme Court. Yeah, we think they're lending it because they make it appear to be that way, especially with the technology. So if you're using a credit card, they never gave you anything. This is a piece of plastic with some imaginary numbers in your mind and what they have in a computer system. They never gave you nothing physically or tangible. It's open end credit,
Yeah.
credit, credit. But it goes back. We don't understand what credit is. So we assume, and that's what they're banking on, our assumption and our ignorance. And they're making millions and trillions and billions of dollars just because we don't understand that one term, credit.
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of answered all my questions. I just wanted people to understand that this is possible. So is there anything that you want to leave with people as far as?
In the situation with my mortgage, in a nutshell, what it is okay, you have three important documents in mortgage. You got the warranty deed. Okay, the warranty deed is between two people, which is the person that originally stays in that place and you. If you're the one buying it, that document is between you. 9 times out of 10, like I mentioned before, contract law requires 2 signatures. When people get that warranty deed, they just take in the warranty deed and it's recorded. But there's never no acceptance of what was given to you. So technically, the warranty deed is loose contract as well. There's a way to fix that. You can simply attach an acknowledgement statement to your warranty deed. You can go to your county, ask for a certified copy, and then once you get the copy, you can attach an acknowledgement of you accepting that property. That will complete that part of the document, one of 3. The second one is typically is your deed of trust and your note. Now that deed of trust, that's a trust, deed of trust. Understand, now we're talking about trust law. It's very important to understand structures of a trust. Okay, you have a trustee, you have the grantor, which is the person actually creating the trust, grantor, settler. The trustee is the person being empowered with something. He's been given something to hold on behalf of someone else, which is going to be the beneficiaries. Okay. And most mortgages, they got the beneficiaries listed as lender, or they have it listed as MERS, which stands for Mortgage Electronic Registration System. Okay, that's a problem, right? Because you created this document. You don't know you created the document because you went in there thinking they was doing something from you. They set you down, they put a whole bunch of papers in front of you, and they told you to sign, 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 sign. Well, that's the biggest part of the fraud right there. Those are your documents. You are the grantor, which is the most important and powerful person.
Your sound went out.
Alive. Okay, you empowered, you gave the trustee, which is the pretender lender, you made them as the trustee, so you gave them a fiduciary responsibility. Okay, now what was they supposed to do in this transaction? Well, technically by law, they were supposed to take that deed of trust and that promissory note, and they were supposed to hang it and go ahead and record it. Well, they don't record that note. The fraud is so rampant, it's just understood. You can go to your county and ask them for the note. They're going to look at you crazy. Oh, they don't record the note. Well, they're supposed to by law, right? Why we don't know? We don't know. We don't understand what's going on. So this is how they're getting away with it. Once they built that trust and they put that warranty, you got that warranty deed, the deed of trust, and that promissory note. The promissory note and the deed of trust were never supposed to leave each other. They both supposed to have been recorded. But what they did was they took that note and they sold it on the back end. The note was a check. You wrote the bank a check for the property. It was over at closing. You just didn't know that. They cashed that check. They sold it for pennies on it. Well, I take it back. They took it to the reserve, got 10 times the amount. Then they sold it on the back end as a mortgage-backed security, which is illegal because they didn't register that note. In order for it to be a mortgage-backed security, it has to go through a process called a REMIC. It's called a real estate investment mortgage investment conduit. Okay, that's through the SEC. So now they're in SEC fraud and FTC fraud. So it gets really deep. So when you put this pressure on them, it's going to expose a lot of things. That's tax evasion, SEC fraud, and the list can go on. So the best thing to do is when you're putting this power on them is to let them know that, hey, because they know if this goes too far, it's going to become public information. And it's not the first case. There's plenty of them out there, but they keep them so concealed. It's hard for people to really see what's going on.
Right.
But it's a lot of moving parts in these documents while the fraud is so rampant. And they've got so sloppy over the years. You can just find so much in anybody's documents. But those are the main 3 documents people really need to understand, because that's where your remedies are. All you need to find is one part of fraud. They give you several. They give you several.
And like you said, fraud don't expire. Like, is there?
No,
find it, expose them.
So they can't stand on fraud in court. So you really don't have nothing to fear for. You just need to learn the civil procedures of court. Here in Texas, small claims court, they went up to 20,000 last year. So you have a situation where, you under 20,000, you're going to ask for the max. You can expose some fraud, cars, credit cards, whatever. You just got to be able to show where you have been harmed and your rights have been violated in pursuant to these laws that they got for us as consumers, It's called consumer protection for a reason. There is no debt collection protection. They do not protect debt collectors.
All right. So I know I'm gonna get these questions. So where can people find you? You have social media or email? Or how do you want to be contacted?
Yeah, Stand Strong. You can find me Instagram _ Stand Strong with no vowels and end at the underscore. I'm also found on Facebook, Stand Strong, and YouTube. I got a YouTube channel with a few videos I've been uploading. But yeah, I'm not hard to find. I'm not hard to find.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I hope people really learn from this information.
Most likely, most likely. I appreciate you for reaching out.
Thank you.